Hi, second grade. We're going to continue James and the Giant Peach today. We finished off on chapter 2. James ran and hid from his aunts behind the laurel bushes in his garden, and he cried and cried and cried. That's where we left off. Chapter 3. It was at this point that the first thing of all, the rather peculiar thing that led to so many other much more peculiar things, happened to James. For suddenly, just behind him, James heard a rustling of leaves, and he turned around and saw an old man in a crazy, dark green suit emerging from the bushes. He was a very small old man, but he had a huge bald head and a face that was covered all over with bristly black whiskers on his face. He stopped when he was about 3 yards away, which we learned about when we were measuring. About 3 yards away, and he stood there leaning on his stick and staring hard at James. When he spoke, his voice was very slow and creaky. "Come closer to me, little boy," he said, beckoning to James with a finger. "Come right up close to me and I will show you something wonderful." By the way, if a stranger ever says that to you, you run. You run and you find your parents and you don't go over and talk to them. Okay. James was too frightened to move. The old man hobbled a step or two nearer, and then he put a hand into the pocket of his jacket and took out a small white paper bag. And here's a picture of what's happening right now. "You see this?" he whispered, waving the bag gently to and fro in front of James's face. "You know what this is, my dear? You know what's inside this little bag?" Then he came nearer still, leaning forward and pushing his face so close to James that James could feel breath blowing on his cheeks. The breath smelled musty and stale and slightly mildewed, like air in an old cellar. "Take a look, my dear," he said, opening the bag and tilting it toward James. Inside it, James could see a mass, a large quantity of tiny green things that looked like little stones or crystals, each one about the size of a grain of rice. They were extraordinarily beautiful, and there was a strange brightness about them, a sort of luminous quality, which means that it lights up, a luminous quality that made them glow and sparkle in the most wonderful way. "Listen to them," the old man whispered. "Listen to them move." James stared into the bag, and sure enough, there was a faint rustling sound coming up from inside it. And then he noticed that all the thousands of little green things were slowly, very, very slowly stirring about and moving over each other as though they were alive. "There's more power and magic in those things in there than in all the rest of the world put together," the old man said softly. But, what are they?" James murmured, finding his voice at last. "Where did they come from?" "Aha," the old man whispered. "You'd never guess that." He was crouching a little now and pushing his face still closer and closer to James until the tip of his long nose was actually touching the skin on James's forehead. Very, very, very close. Then suddenly he jumped back and began waving his stick madly in the air. Now listen to what these things are made of. It's crazy. "Crocodile tongues," he cried. 1,000 long, slimy crocodile tongues boiled up in the skull of a dead witch for 20 days and nights with the eyeballs of a lizard. Ugh. Add the fingers of a young monkey, the gizzard of a pig, the beak of a green parrot, the juice of a porcupine, and 3 spoonfuls of sugar. Ew. Stew for another week, and then let the moon do the rest. All at once, he pushed the white paper bag into James's hands and said, "Here, take it. You take it. It's yours." Chapter 4. James Henry Trotter stood there clutching the bag and staring at the old man. And now the old man said, "All you've got to do is this. Take a large jug of water and pour all the little green things into it. Then, very slowly, one by one, add 10 hairs from your own head. That sets them off. It gets them going. In a couple of minutes, the water will begin to froth and bubble ferociously," which means wildly, crazy. "And as soon as that happens, you must quickly drink it all down, the whole jug full, in one gulp. And then, my dear, you will feel it churning and boiling in your stomach. The steam will start coming out of your mouth, and immediately after that, marvelous things, wonderful things will start happening to you. Fabulous, unbelievable things. And you will never be miserable again in your life because you are miserable, aren't you?" Now, miserable means extremely sad. You're going to want to remember that. "You needn't tell me. I know all about it. Now, off you go and do exactly as I say, and don't whisper a word of this to those two horrible aunts of yours. Not a word. And don't let those green things in there get away from you either. Because if they do escape, they will be working their magic upon someone else instead of upon you. That's important to remember. And that isn't what you want at all, is it, my dear? Whoever they meet first, be it bug, insect, animal, or tree, that will be the one who gets the full power of their magic. So go, hold the bag tight. Don't tear the paper. Off you go. Hurry up. Don't wait. Now's the time. Hurry, hurry. And with that, the old man turned away and disappeared into the bushes. Chapter 5. The next moment, James was running back toward the house as fast as he could go. He would do it all in the kitchen, he told himself. If only he could get there without Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker seeing him. He was so excited, terribly excited. He flew through the long grass and the stinging nettles, not caring whether or not he got stung on his bare knees. And in the distance, he could see Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker sitting in their chairs with their backs toward him. He swerved away, which means steered the other direction, from them so as not to go around the other side of the house without them seeing. But then suddenly, just as he was passing underneath the old peach tree that stood in the middle of the garden, his foot slipped and he fell flat on his face in the grass. The bag burst open. And as it hit the ground and the thousands of tiny green things scattered in every direction. Oh, James. James immediately picked himself up onto his hands and knees and started searching around for his precious treasures. But what was this? They were all sinking into the soil. He could actually see them wriggling and twisting as they burrowed their way downward into the hard earth. And at once, he reached out a hand to pick some of them up before it was too late, and they disappeared right under his fingers. He went after some others, and the same thing happened. He began scrambling around frantically, which means as fast as he could, crazy, in an effort to catch hold of those that were left, but they were too quick for him. Each time the tips of his fingers were just about to touch them, they vanished into the earth, disappeared. And soon, in the space of only a few seconds, every single one of them had gone. James felt like crying. He would never get them back now. They were lost forever. But where had they gone? And why in the world had they been so eager to push down into the earth like that? What were they after? There was nothing down there, nothing except the roots of an old peach tree and a lot of earthworms and centipedes and insects living in the soil. But what was it that the old man had said? Whoever they meet first, be it bug, insect, animal, or tree, that will be the one who gets the full power of their magic. Good heavens, thought James, what is going to happen in that case if they do meet an earthworm or a centipede or a spider? And what if they do get into the roots of that old peach tree? Get up at once, you lazy little beast, a voice was suddenly shouting in James's ear. James glanced up and saw Aunt Spiker standing over him, grim and tall and bony like a spike. That's important to remember. Glaring at him through her steel-rimmed spectacles. Let me just show you a picture. There's James when he dropped them, and he's frantically trying to gather them as quickly as he can as they're burrowing down into the earth under that old peach tree. Get back over there immediately and finish chopping down those logs, she ordered. Aunt Sponge, fat and pulpy as a jellyfish, came waddling up behind her sister to see what was going on. Why don't we just lower the boy down into the well in a bucket and leave him there for the night, she suggested. That ought to teach him not to laze about like this the whole day long. That's a very good idea, my dear Sponge. But let's make him finish chopping up the wood first. Be off with you at once, you hideous brat, and go do some work. Slowly, sadly, poor James got up off the ground and went back to the woodpile. Oh, if only he hadn't slipped and fallen and dropped that precious bag. All hope of a happier life had gone completely now. Today and tomorrow and the next day and all the days after as well would be nothing but punishment and pain and unhappiness and despair. Despair is another word that means big sadness. He picked up the chopper and was just about to start chopping away again when he heard a shout behind him that made him stop and turn. We're going to stop there for today. Chapter 6 will be tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.